1. A few years ago, I got an awesome new job. I loved it so much, and I got to travel the country. Only thing is, I have some sort of agreement where I can't tell anyone the name of the company or specifics of what I do. I can only give a general title and say it's a private company. That is as much as I've told my father, and I've told him I'm not doing anything illegal. Of course, this did not sit well with my father. He has tried to keep tabs on what I'm doing, monitors every post I make on Facebook, to the point I'll post some random comment on a page that has absolutely nothing to do with him, and he'll say something to me about it that same day. He has looked up where I'm going when I told him I was staying at a hotel where a board game convention was being held, which was the truth. I didn't tell him the hotel, but he figured it out. He has opened my mail, which has allowed him to discover the name of the company. It was my tax form, so no nefarious information. Before I moved out last year, he threw a temper tantrum saying I'd never be able to take care of myself again. Said I'm making the biggest mistake of my life. I was 36 when I moved out, mind you, and was only staying with him because of the pandemic. I explained to him that my first year at the company was part-time, and I still managed to pay off my remaining $10,000 student loan debt, and would be full-time going into my second year. There was no reason to worry about finances. He threw another tantrum, began screaming. I even told him I could probably rent out my place as an Airbnb if finances did become an issue. He responded with, "Nobody would ever want what you have." Well, that comment set me off. I've kept contact with him minimum since then. However, the other day, he began accusing me of working for a cartel. Mind you, the cartel doesn't have W-2s, which he saw. So I was a bit upset. I began taking Ziploc bags and filling them with oregano or flour and sugar mix or brown sugar. I would place him in places where I know he would be, such as his favorite recliner's cup holder, the nightstand beside it, his pillow, the toilet in his preferred bathroom. I figured he would find them. The problem is he didn't find them. Until several colonies of ants swarmed his house, and he had to call an exterminator. He yelled at me, asking what all this stuff was, and I told him I have no idea. I've been in my apartment. I later learned the exterminator had told him what the contents of said packages actually were, and my dad has been leaving angry voicemails ever since. I could also hear the exterminator laughing in the background hysterically, which was a nice cherry on top. As some have suggested, some nicely and some not so nicely, I decided to go no contact, and have not been answering any of his calls. He's trying to do a 4th of July thing. He began calling my siblings to tell them how ungrateful and hurtful I was being to him. Not because of the prank, but because of not answering his calls. I explained the story, and while my siblings mostly agree with me, they still think no contact is too far, as they think it puts too much of a strain on the family as a whole. It's still unclear where my siblings stand with me, but my father has now left a voicemail saying I'm no longer in his will. He has also made threats and voicemails saying he's going to find me and find out what I do, and all I had to do is tell him what I do or none of this would have ever happened. If I get one more threat call, I'm probably going to get a restraining order. 2. Some short backstory. Mother-in-law is alcoholic, narcissistic, verbally and mentally abusive. I was not aware of the mental illness or the extent of her mental illness until I was deep into my marriage. My mother-in-law and her ex-husband bought this house that essentially was just for her. It didn't fit a family. The bedrooms were too small. It was 3 floors of a doll-like house that she insisted on having. Half of her clothes didn't even fit in her master bedroom, so the ex-husband and her clothes had to be stashed into my husband's room. But mother-in-law loved the house, and that was all that mattered. There have been numerous storms and hurricanes which mother-in-law has refused to evacuate from, because she told everyone she was going to die in that house. Narc abuse. Anyway, after coming to terms with her never leaving unless it's carrying out her cold, dead body, she just ups and decides to sell the house. My husband and I are there on the last day, per her request, for emotional support. So we basically go there and end up supervising her weird behavior all day. This is where my PettyRevenge comes in. She followed the moving crew around with food and sandwiches. They didn't want them, so instead she just cried about moving and followed them around. Then she got mad at them for making a water ring on her kitchen table, which she wasn't taking with her, and not using a coaster. She asked us to help pack some leftover stuff, but we ended up not doing anything. Because once we packed up things, per her request, it wasn't right, so we had to unpack it. We couldn't throw away or reorganize anything in case the next owners wanted it. They didn't. We tried throwing away dead plants from the front yard, and we had to put them back. We later drove by and guess what? They were gone. Anything we had ever given her in terms of gifts were in a big pile to be sold at an estate sale. I was really insulted because she made such a big deal about getting the right gifts, or specifically the ones she wanted over the years. A couple of years ago, her ex-mother-in-law died, but before she died, she forced my husband to bring her to the ex-mother-in-law's, and then the current mother-in-law grilled this poor senile lady on what she remembered about her. Talk about narcissism. Then, after she died, she raged about how she had nothing to remember the ex-mother-in-law, and we had to give her something. So, we gave her a really nice dish set, which she displayed in a case. Mother-in-law moved and threw the dish set she raged about into this junk pile. I even refurbished her ex-mother-in-law's original painting of flowers she loved, and that was just gone, disappeared. When I asked her about it, she played dumb. I spent a whole summer refurbishing this dumb picture for her. But also in this pile that she kept showing us over and over, and like wagging it in front of us like it was a big deal, that she just knew she would be getting big bucks for, was a Monteverde pen that she had gotten when she married the ex-husband. She kept trying to get us to take her items from a pile that was not being sold, and it was a bunch of junk. Then she was insulted that we didn't want her junky crap. She was mad that we didn't want her brand new furniture that she had wasted money on and bought right before moving. She was mad that we didn't want her dishes. She was mad and drunk and angry the whole day, and nothing we did was good enough. We basically just sat back and watched her spin out. She gave me a pile of jewelry from another relative that she didn't even like, took the good stuff and gave me the junk stuff. She spun herself so out of control that day that she just took the damn Monteverde pen until days later at the estate sale. I'm not proud of myself for doing so, but at the end of the day I had enough of the abuse and belittling, and so did my husband. We ran out of there. And guess what? The pen, not worth anything. I ended up throwing it in the trash. Again, not my proudest moment, but I needed an angry release from the day. She has been a million times easier to deal with since moving. Thank you for listening. 3. I used to work for a big IT consulting company notorious for not paying overtime. I worked for a client's migration project for almost 1.5 years, leading the functional migration team. The three of us worked for the client 3 years before the start of the migration project, so we knew the data we had to migrate, all the nuances, and 2 weeks before the migration date, 99% of the data was already migrated and validated. We only did the day-by-day new data and sag off pretty much those 2 last weeks. Other manager that outranked me became extremely angry about our calmness because the part she led was behind schedule due to bad scheduling, and everyone was being overworked because of her mishaps. Come migration date, Saturday, starting 9 a.m., everyone was expecting long hours of work, but we clocked out at noon with the data validated with the client, and the go-ahead signed, sealed, and delivered. My team got a written commendation from the client. The manager's team spent the entire weekend there. She got a complaint letter from the client. The manager complained about us and made me and my senior analyst spend the next month waiting for incidences, bugs, and complaints. We got 5 in the whole month. My senior analyst spent 8 hours a day studying a new language. I took the chance to update my CV, I wanted out, and pretty much help a couple of former colleagues that needed to solve bugs and problems within the manager's team responsibilities. A couple weeks later, evaluation time. And the IT company. Everyone was graded A to D, being exceeding expectations, D being you're out of here. B was good. C was pretty much, I'm starting to think you might not be good to work here. Given the communication from the client, I was expecting an A. My evaluation was done by the manager and my mentor, a close friend with the manager. They gave me a C because we didn't see any pressure on your work and you certainly lack motivation. I complained and took a long overdue, already planned month-long vacation. This was June. After that, back at work, I was assigned to a project on another client led by a manager's husband. He wanted me to prepare 122 integrations with different systems in 4 months. I told him that in the previous project, led by his wife, they took 2 years to have 12 integrations ready, but I would give it a shot. I even emailed him the planning where it clearly showed the time they took. 2 of those months were July and August, months where pretty much everyone on the client goes on holiday. Manager and wife also went on holiday pretty much all August. I spent those 2 months chasing people around the client's office, but starting September, 6 integrations were closed, and 6 more were almost closed, pending validation. Manager came back from holidays and was furious. He called me a slacker and started telling me that his wife was right, that I lacked motivation, and that I would need to spend the rest of the project duration working till midnight to make up for lost time. And I said, no, I won't do an hour more than what you're paying. I had told you that your expectations were unrealistic, and you went ahead with them anyways. He went ballistic. I replied, I just lack motivation to work in your project. I want out of the project. I was out of the project in no time. I got a call from my mentor. She said they were evaluating firing me without pay because of this. I told them about the unrealistic planning. She said that I was being unrealistic, and that the planning was good. I produced the email I sent the manager. My mentor went quiet. A minute later, she told me, what do you want? If you can't guarantee I won't do an hour of overtime ever again, I want out. Full severance and then some. And I want the company to make it look like I quit, not that you fired me. She went quiet again. She said she'll see what she could do. I was out of there smiling by the end of the day. P.S. From the team that remained in the project, 4 guys were on my team before the migration project. They all complained. They all got out of the project as well. As far as I know, the project took twice the expected time to be completed. Manager's husband got nearly fired. Wife held a lot of power and managed to save his ass. 4. Bit of a long story that's led to the improvement in multiple neighbors' lives in my street. My wife and I, engaged at the time, bought our first house in a less than reputable neighborhood because, well, it was all we could afford in the COVID housing boom, and it was only 20 minutes from the city where we worked. Street was nice enough. Owning our own place also meant we put in effort to actually get to know our neighbors and do the suburban lifestyle thing. Only real issue in the street was our direct next-door neighbors. It was government housing, or assisted housing, and she was a real piece of work. Turns out she was a bit of a dropout and would tell her less than 10-year-old child, "It's okay if you get caught stealing from people's doorsteps. You're under 10. You won't get in trouble." This has been confirmed as something he would brag to the other children in the street. An attempt was made once, and thankfully one of our new neighbor's friends caught him in the act and made sure our package got into our hands. Doubt he would have appreciated the thread count in those sheets we bought online anyway. It was at this time that we bought some Ring cameras for front and back of the house. Fast forward a few months later, we saved up and bought a brand new 3070 graphics card for my birthday. Our RP at the time was around $1,700. We arranged for my wife to work from home the day it was to be delivered, so no issues, right? You should pretty much know what happens next. Cue panicked phone call from my wife. She didn't even hear a knock at the door or anything, but the package is missing. I checked the video footage while excusing myself from work to come sort it out. The package never made it to the house in the first place. The driver, on seeing the light sprinkle of rain, asked a random child playing in the street if he lived there, and could accept the package. Little brat obviously said yes, and then pretended to come into our house until the driver left, then scarpered with my brand new GFX card. Thing is, we have footage of most of this. To cut a long story short, my wife attempted to ask the mother for our property back. It escalated to having to call the police, provide evidence, love those cameras, and receipt. During the handover, the police happened to mention that they couldn't charge the child due to his age, but his mom will be charged with handling stolen goods. Though with her and her boyfriend's 6 outstanding warrants, it was apparently their least concern. Oh well. To cap it all off, we copped a bit of verbal abuse and implied threats afterwards. So we reported them for that and the thefts to the Housing Commission, and then ended up getting them moved about an hour further out in one of the more remote Commission housing areas. The entire street marveled at how much quieter and safer it was in the street after that. Oh, and bonus revenge, we also raised a complaint to the delivery company about the driver's behavior. Turns out he was already on probation for doing the same thing, with same results, from what the customer relations guy was telling me. 5. Context. I've been working in IT my whole working life. Several years ago, I was approached by someone who owns a small private college and offered a job. I had several years of IT experience by that time, mostly working at colleges in the area. I accepted the job. There I was the only IT. There was no IT department, just me. The internet was laughable, something like 100 megabits per second for the whole school. They were trying to expand and get approval for a new program, so I took on the daunting task of getting the school up to date. They were simultaneously working to move to online tests and homework. Everything was on paper when I started there, so I moved very fast to do this. I also assisted with providing whatever paperwork, spreadsheets, schedules, etc. the school needed to get their new program approval finalized. Once that was all done, I continued to work as the only IT on campus. Then my boss asked me to work in admissions in addition to my own department to take applications for the new program they got. There were so many other jobs they gave me that I don't even remember them all. They needed about 6 people to do all of that work, but I did it. Fast forward to 2021, I decide I've had enough. I enroll in the program that I helped the school get, took their crazy entrance exam, it had something like a 10% pass rate, scored in the top 5 for that year, then I quit my job. That place had become the worst job I had ever worked at. The boss had no respect for anyone around them, and the office had like 6 or 7 people working in it, including me. I was constantly being accused of doing nothing all day when I was working. When I quit, they did not hire anyone to fill my position. They instead passed my work on to 3 other people, who of course already had their own jobs to do. I watched them struggle for about a month before another one quit. Their work also just got dispersed among the remaining employees. That left 4 people working full-time in the office. One of them, the one who had the absolute most jobs out of everyone there, started no-call, no-showing at least once a week. Now, one of my favorite co-workers told me that she was just offered a new job with a 40% pay increase, benefits. Did I mention this job I had didn't offer benefits? And room to grow. She is leaving in August, so that leaves 3 workers. And the guy that started no-showing has already informed the boss that he won't be working there anymore after this year is over. So that leaves 2 employees. One of them is part-time. I feel bad for taking joy in this, but something feels good about watching everyone get fed up with the garbage management there at the same time. And to clarify a few points, I'm about to graduate in like 3 months. The school might shut down, but not that fast. I'll be gone before it would affect me. I plan to graduate and promptly purchase like 8 copies of my transcript in case they go down. I technically didn't do anything, but that is the petty revenge. Boss keeps asking me to help out around the school. I keep reminding them that I quit my job. And my coworker that got offered a new job came to ask me for advice about whether or not they should even take the job. Of course I said yes. I reminded them that this place never did right by anyone other than the owner. The boss is the owner. This school is very, very small. They were somehow open for 13 years before they hired me. Baffling. The DOE isn't doing anything about the working conditions, though. The programs they offer are actually really good. The DOL might do something, but I'm not going to call them. It's way more satisfying to watch the school destroy itself, while throwing around the "I need to focus on school" reason whenever the boss asks me for help. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to my creaky chair. Revenge is Ice Cream, episode 275. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. Before you go, please do hit the like button. If you'd like to get the videos a little bit earlier, you can support me financially through Patreon for as little or as much as you like a month. Well, I say as much as you like. I'm not saying start pledging like $5 million you do a month or something like that. But anyway, yeah, you can support me through Patreon. The link is in the description, and I'll pop the videos up. Right now, it usually goes like 5, then 2 later in the week, because that's just the order I'm getting the stories in. But once things settle down fully with Reddit, it's mostly back to normal. Just a couple of little things are so coming. That it should get back to normal. I should be able to put all 7 up on the Tuesday. You can also find a link to the Hellfreezer merchandise store if you'd like to get yourself some Hellfreezer merchandise. I designed it, so I'm biased, but I think it's awesome. And if there's something there you want design-wise that isn't available, let me know, and I'll make it and pop it up there. Because I can do that, being me. Also, if you'd like to make a one-off donation, you can do that during streams and videos, like the one you just watched. You're not required to do so, but it is helpful and helps pay the bills. Alright, let's move along to Hellfreezer's question of the day. Sorry, I'm suddenly thinking of cake, because I looked to my side, and there's a carton for like a lemon cake that I've polished off yesterday. I will pop that in the trash forthwith. The question isn't about cake. I was just distracted by cake, and I'm suddenly remembering I popped out to buy some groceries earlier, and they're still sitting on top of the chest freezer in the kitchen. I need to put those away. Right, anyway, today's question is, eventually, although the benefits are high and the software is good, like Adobe for example, do you prefer a subscription where you can pick and choose and then cancel at any time? Or do you just prefer, like I do quite frankly, to buy the software you want outright, so you can then just use it, and then if you want to upgrade you can do that later? Because personally I don't mind a subscription to like a streaming service like this one, or like Netflix when it used to be good, or Paramount Prime, just anything with video streaming content. I think that's worth it. Software, I prefer to own the dang thing, because you install on your computer anyway. You're literally just paying for the privilege of being able to use something that's installed on your computer and using your resources to run. Anyway, let me know what you think in a comment below before I grumble too much. And with that, I'm gonna head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.